So popular topic, if popular can be the word, among those who like to argue about such things would be the question of which language has the most words. I mean, anything that's, as soon as you count anything, there's going to be, of course, people that will want to find out who has the most. Almost like a word is like a point. So this is one of those questions that I looked at in last week in an earlier video that about English in particular, and it's really hard to come up with any kind of definitive number for how many words are in a language, because you start with your core vocabulary, you get into some specialized stuff, then you get into really rare words, and then you get into this strange territory of archaic, obsolete words that nobody's ever heard unless you're like writing a dictionary about it, right? So it's hard to know where to draw the line and to say whether something's a word or not. And you also have the question of, how popular does a word need to be at all? Like, if some people start saying something, how long before it's accepted into the dictionary? How many people have to say it? If there's just like one group of people in one little corner of the English-speaking world and they have a little slang word that they use among themselves, does that make it into the English dictionary for all speakers? I mean, that's the origin of so many words. They started as some little niche slang, and then they became fully recognizable English words. But at what point does it cross the line? So there's no obvious answer to these things. But of course, doesn't stop us from taking a look at what's out there. So the first thing to be clear about before, when we're counting words, is like what really counts as a word. Of course, there's the issue of whether something is used enough and widely enough to count as a word. There's even the question of how we divide up words. And this is where, when it comes to dictionaries, we have this concept of the lemma. Okay, so it's also perhaps more naturally called a head word or a dictionary word, dictionary form of a word. And this is because you can think of, for many words, there's many different versions of what we would essentially consider to be the same word. Here we have the example break, breaks. And those are not going to be two different entries in the dictionary. Broke, broken, breaking. All of those are considered to be part of the same lemma, or we can also call it a lexeme, which is another fancy way of saying a unit of the lexicon, as in something that really acts as a single word. Somehow it's a group of related words, and they're effectively one word. And so you can't, you could really rack up the dictionary word count if you were to count all of those separately. But maybe that would be really not a very useful thing to do in a dictionary. And the point of a dictionary isn't to just rack up high word counts, but to actually be useful for looking things up. And certainly it's reasonable to combine together all these related words. So that's what we call head word or lemma, or all these different terms for it. And usually you just pick whatever's the most basic form, whatever that means, whatever's considered the most basic. So for this word, it would be break. And we'll say, okay, the dictionary entry is for the word break. And then, you can talk about the other forms. If they're regular forms that are kind of fully predictable, maybe you don't even have to talk about them, like break and breaks. But broke, broke, that's an irregular past form, because we say broke and we don't say braked, which would be the regular form. So that might be worth noting. And so on. So that's the idea of these groups of words, and that's where we get the word count. All right, so with that in mind, let us now take a look at the list here list of dictionaries by number of words. And you see that we can't, it's not so much about picking which language has the most words, but which dictionary has the most words. Because really, that's these are really the competing entities in this contest, so to speak. And we have here a surprising winner by far is the Tamil language. Tamil language of southern India. This is a Dravidian language, which is a language family of southern India. And we can, has this, I think, quite a nice writing system here. About 80 million speakers and even 8 million learning it. Now, there's not too many languages that have that many people learning it as a second language. Okay, so this is a major language of India. And for some reason, it has a very large number of words in this dictionary. In fact, it's run by the Tamil government. They have their own online dictionary. So, I mean, I wonder if there's some kind of a propaganda value. If the government wants to, really show off how great their language and their culture is, and so they have this giant dictionary. Now let's take a look. So yeah, really cool writing system. I mean, that's a lot of fun. I'm going to reload because it looks like they just picked up this random word here. Okay, yeah. Oh, this is fun because every time you go to this page, it will load a random word. So here's a word that means falsehood. Okay, so and here's grinding stone. Yeah, really fun setup for a dictionary. So, I mean, I have no idea how to pronounce these words. And I guess, wow. So in order to actually try to pronounce, I'd maybe have to drop these into a translator. So what I would do here is detect language. So I go to detect language, and it detects Tamil. And then, I guess which should be pretty easy to detect because I believe this writing system is specifically for Tamil. And now we get this pronunciation, Potuvelich Torkal. Okay, and maybe, clearly there's a lot of details in that pronunciation that I'm off in. But that's the idea, and it means public domain words. Well, I guess it's an open dictionary. I guess that's the idea of a public open dictionary. So, yeah, I'd be curious to know, exactly how they got to so high a number. But how obscure do they need to get, and how much into obsolete words do they need to get? But as it is, they have at least made the claim. Have made the claim that, and they are by far the number one dictionary in terms of number of words. And you can see here, number 2 is Korean, also breaking the million mark. So only 2 of them have broken the million mark. And this is also run by the government. Notice that it includes different dialects. So it's run by the South Korean government, but also includes some North Korean dialect words, although only a small number compared to its total. We have Portuguese dictionary with 800,000. Say including expressions. I suppose that kind of seems like it means maybe that would include some multi-word expressions. Ooh, now that might be a way to really stack your dictionary if you have, these kind of special multi-word expressions like, bread and butter or something that you can combine them. You can actually have an entry for them. And in some way that it makes sense because those kinds of idioms where you have multiple words, but they have a single unified meaning that's not predictable from those individual words, like bread and butter. Well, yeah, you could be talking about bread and butter, but also the term, this is my bread and butter business or something. It's a way of suggesting that something is very basic and foundational, the idea of bread and butter. So that would be something that kind of deserves its own definition. So if you start to stack some of those in, that is a way of, really, increasing the your dictionary count. Although really you can't really precisely call those words, so that would be a stretch. Okay, here we see Finnish is so I guess that is gold, silver, and bronze for Tamil, Korean, and Portuguese, 3 major world languages. Okay, and we have now Finnish. And this is, well, a much smaller language. I believe there's only around 5 million Finnish speakers in the world. And so that is really 5 million. So it really is a much smaller language compared to the, the 80 million who speak Tamil. Maybe I think around 80 million Portuguese, maybe 80 million Korean. Over 300 million Portuguese, I believe, or at least 200 million Portuguese. So these are very major world languages. Finnish, a little one, but they have managed to still, I guess it doesn't really matter how many speakers your language has in a way. If you have a very large population of speakers, that can lead to more words coming in because you have more different possible sources of new words, and probably you're spread out over many areas, many different dialects, many different possible things to talk about. But even in a small language, especially over a long time, it's certainly possible to collect a lot of words. Well, in fact, this seems a bit dubious that the dictionary, they give you 300,000 in the free version, which seems like, that's really a very large number of words, probably more than you'd ever need to know in your life. But then you have to pay and you get the extra 500,000. Wow, okay. So then include other dictionaries. Saying does not include inflections, which is a way of saying that they're still grouping these words into their word groups, those lexemes or headwords, as we looked at. So they come in fourth place, 800,000. And now we have English. There it is. So, some have said that English has the most number of words. Certainly with the number of speakers of English, there's a lot of chance for a lot of words to come in. But we only have, only 750,000. Interesting, this column lists the number of definitions. So here, that's because there's like twice as many definitions as there are words, because there's many words that can be used in more than one way. And that's another interesting angle of this, like when you're counting words, there can be, in some cases, 2 words that look the same and sound the same, but they're different words, like bank and bank. Bank, the building or the business, and bank, the side of a river, or the bank angle. So that is, those are 2 completely different words that just happen to look the same. And then you could also have words that are really the same word, but they have many different definitions. And you see this for a lot of simple words. There's like put, words like face, words like stand. Stand can mean standing up, and it can mean like withstanding things. And so like there's many different sort of angles and aspects to many different words that possibly, depending how you divide them up, and I would wonder, for some of these languages how they divide them up, but then it's possible to come up with a larger number. Although interestingly, even if you count definitions, you still have Tamil edging it out. This number is just so huge, it would even edge out the English dictionary with its different definitions. Okay, and we go down, Swedish, and they even they're going letter by letter. So they got to T, and then they added some more later. So they just keep adding letter by letter. There's another Korean dictionary that was later surpassed. And here you see this number of like 500,000. That shows up Italian, Japanese, Lithuanian, another English. So 500,000 seems to be a kind of a pretty standard kind of a cap that most most languages, most dictionaries have a hard time going past about 500,000. And then really getting into a lot of others. And you see they're not too much less. So this is a popular size for many languages. Like really like 300,000 to 500,000 kind of size. And on down. So that is a quick look at least one claim. I know this is just Wikipedia, so who knows what else is going on, and is there a competitor for Tamil? How did Tamil get to its size, and what stands out about it, and is there anybody else that is going to surpass it? Well, I think the answers to those questions get into the weeds of dictionary production. It's called lexicography, is the whole field of making dictionaries, and it's a whole deep dive in itself to go into how dictionaries are made and all the choices that are made when you make a dictionary that really take it away from the language itself. I think many people sort of look at a dictionary as being like a mirror or a picture of the language, but really it is a very specific attempt to explain and capture certain aspects of a language. But it's full of many choices. Each dictionary is full of many choices and particular perspectives and limitations of the dictionary makers. So it's really the question of which language has the most words is really better expressed as which dictionary has the most words. And so far, from what I can see, the current reigning champion is Tamil and the Sorkuvai Tamil Dictionary. So yeah, I would be very curious to hear if anybody has any other dictionaries or knows of any other dictionaries and languages that might be able to compete for this championship. Please let us know in the comments.